Good morning, sir. I'm Yap Wei Hao, leader from Group 10. There are three more members, Hong, Tan, and Brandon. Let's begin our presentation. Brandon?
Hi, my name is Brandon. Today I'm going to talk about the introduction of this regulation. The Occupational Safety and Health Classification, Packaging and Labeling of Hazardous Chemicals Regulations 1997 is also known as the CPR regulations. It was replaced by Classification, Labeling and Safety Data Sheet of Hazardous Chemicals. Regulation 2013 Class Regulation. It contains 10 regulations, and the main purpose is provide info on hazards of chemicals, lower the risk of accident, provide safe and healthy environment. Regulation 1. Citation and commencement. Regulation 1 talk about these regulations come to force on 15 April 1997 and cited as Occupational Safety and Health Regulations 1997 bracket classification, packaging and labeling of hazardous chemicals. Regulation 2 Interpretation. Regulation 2 explains about chemicals, chemical elements, compounds or mixture, foodstuff, hazardous chemicals, internationally recognized nomenclature, medical practitioner, occupational health doctor, specific nature of the risk, supplier, and lastly, the degree of hazard, which is the classification of hazardous chemicals. Next, we go to part A, classification based on physical chemicals properties. They are explosive, oxidizing, extremely flammable, highly flammable, and flammable. Here we can see explosive is more hazardous than oxidizing. Oxidizing is more hazardous than extremely flammable. Extremely flammable is more hazardous than highly flammable, and highly flammable is more hazardous than flammable. Okay, part B, classification based on health effect. It works very same way like the chemical I mentioned just now, which is very toxic is more hazardous than toxic. Toxic is more hazardous than corrosive. Corrosive is more hazardous than harmful, and lastly, harmful is more hazardous than irritant. That's all from me today. Thank you very much.
Regulation 3 is about the application. So the hazardous chemicals shall not be supplied to the supplier. If the chemicals is the radioactive materials or the chemical is pesticide under the pesticide act, or this is considered as a poison in the poison list, and if this is a drug under the sales of drug act 1952. Also, if the chemicals is scheduled as wasted, the hazardous chemicals shall not apply to the transportation of hazardous chemicals by rail, road, inland waterway, sea, or even air. And the hazardous chemicals in transit, which mean the chemicals stored at a bonded warehouse. The regulation 4 talk about the duty of supplier to classify. The duty of supplier is to classify the hazardous chemicals based on the category of hazard, and everything is based on the regulation too. The duty of suppliers have to classify the chemicals as well. If the chemicals is fall within more than one category of hazard in part A and B in the regulation 2. Regulation 5 is packaging requirement. We talk about the container, which the hazardous chemicals stored in a container, and the container must be designed and constructed that its contents cannot escape. The materials constituting the packaging and the frosting are not susceptible to adverse attack by the contents therein or liable to form harmful or dangerous compounds with the contents. The packaging and frosting must be strong and solid, And the container fits with replaceable fastener devices. And this is the example of the container, which used to store the hazardous chemicals.
Good morning, sir. I'm Yap, leader from Group 10. Today, I'm going to talk about Regulation 6, 7, and 8. In Regulation 6 is about the shield of package. In Regulation 6 means that the supplier must make sure that the packages are initially closed with shield. If the packages are open, this will spoil the shield and the shield cannot be repaired. This is an example of shield. In Regulation 7 is about labeling. In labeling, there consists of 5 elements, which are the name of hazardous chemical, the name, address, and full number of supplier, danger symbol and indication of danger, the nature of the special risk, and safety precautionary. This is a symbol of explosive, oxidizing, extremely flammable, highly flammable, flammable, very toxic, toxic and corrosive. Harmful symbol and irritant symbol. In Regulation 7, there are two schedules, Schedule 3 and 4. Symbol R represent as risk and the numbers represent as their category. In Schedule 3, R1 represent as explosive when dry. In Schedule 4 is about safety precautionary. S1 indicates as keep locked up. There is a list in OSHA. This is an example of label. In Regulation X is about dimension of label. For example, for a package which is less than 3 liters, the dimension must be at least 52 times 74 mm. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Sekui. Regulation 9 is about duty of supplier to furnish chemical safety data sheet. Suppliers should provide all information like hazard identification, first aid measure, disposal information, and others related information to the package. This purpose is let the customer know more deeply about the product. This picture shows the label parts of the product. Regulation 10 is about confidential information on chemical. The name of the chemical and the concentration of the chemical in chemical safety data sheet should be listed same as the information provided to a healthy doctor and any person who use or handle the chemicals. For conclusion, there are three most important parts that we have learned in OHH 1997. They are classification, packaging, and labeling. Next, we also learn about safety precaution. Before we want to use the hazard chemical, we must check the chemical whether it is in good condition or not. We should wear gloves to protect our hand because prevention is better than cure. Let us bear in our mind safety first. That's all from me. Thank you.